Hey everyone, welcome back. Dale here. I work as an automotive consultant here in the UK and I help manufacturers decide what standard equipment and options they should put into their vehicles. And I've found some options that you absolutely should not select if you're looking to buy the new Volkswagen Golf Mark 8. So we're going to dive straight into this. I've got my little Microsoft Surface Pen here that can help us out. I've also got a video link below for the 5 that you should pick. But for this video we're going to look at the 5 that you absolutely shouldn't pick, and this is if you were buying a vehicle, you were looking to tick those boxes and then sell this vehicle in 3 years time with 60,000 miles on the clock, sort of typical PCP agreements. So we're going to jump into that now and I'll explain exactly why you shouldn't pick these options. And if you agree or disagree, obviously hit me up in the comments, and if you've got any questions, again, just jump into the comments and I'll try and answer them as best that I can. The first one on my hit list is ambient lighting. So this is to do with the interior of the car. It's what you select when you are in a specific mood when you're driving. If you want to drive sportily, you might put it in red. If you want to drive in eco mode, it might turn green. The car might do that itself. It's actually a £150 option that you can select. 30 colours. For me, so if I was going to price this vehicle and this was included as standard, and you're looking at 2 cars in a car park, or in a car dealership, for example, and one had ambient lighting and one didn't, what is the expectation that you would pay? And would you pay extra for it, for example? So it's a £150 option, and unfortunately, in this case, it gets absolutely nothing. So the expectation for what I do when I consult with manufacturers is they would say, Dale, how much do you think ambient lighting would be worth in 3 years' time if we added this as standard equipment? And I'd go back to them and say, I don't think it's worth anything. And then I'd show them some evidence that would relate to my answer. So ambient lighting would be a 0, so don't select that option if you are looking to get this vehicle, because you're not going to get any money back from it, in my personal opinion, and based on what my understanding is of this vehicle. Keyless entry. So this is quite a popular option. I know a lot of cars in slightly higher tiers than this, like the Tesla Model 3s and things like that, they have keyless entry as standard. Other vehicles within this bracket have keyless entry as standard. On the Volkswagen, it's a £400 option. So for keyless entry, I'm trying to think 3 years ahead. Will the majority of vehicles have keyless entry, therefore making this a bit of a redundant option? And that's the conclusion I came to. It's a £400 option. And I think in 3 years' time, a lot more vehicles will have keyless entry, so there'll be no real reason to add it as an option, because I think it'll just be standard on that vehicle. So again, we're looking at anywhere between, if I was going to do this for my day job and pick it for this particular vehicle, anywhere between 0 to £50. And that's the expectation of what you would get back if you were selling this vehicle with keyless entry. If we work our way down the list, next on my hit list is progressive steering. So this is steering that helps you manoeuvre around car parks, do 3-point turns and all that stuff. You don't have to turn the wheel quite as much, and if you're on the motorway, it's nice and easy to just have a sensible drive without it sort of twitching all over the road. A bit easier to drive the vehicle. It's a £195 option, and unfortunately, if you select that option, in my opinion, again, if I was advising Volkswagen myself and they said, Dale, if we put this on as standard as a £195 option, how much would we expect to get back in the used market? It's a big fat 0, I'm afraid. Volkswagen, you're not going to get anything for your progressive steering. £195 seems like a bit much for some adaptive steering, effectively. I think it's more software than hardware. Next on my list, it's quite a big ticket item. This is the IQ Light LED matrix headlights, a £1,750 option. That is a lot for some lights. So as an exercise, generally when we're looking at these vehicles, we do an exterior sort of subjective, what we call an uplift. So it's to be a residual value uplift. We look at the vehicle, how much better does it look in our opinion than the last model, and we assign a value to it based on how it visually looks, whether you like it or you don't like it, but we've got to assign a value to it. Again, we do a separate exercise for the interior, Does the dash look different, steering wheel, and we bundle all those together and we come with a value. So the exterior styling is taken care of in a separate sort of valuation uplift that we apply. So if you were going to put on this IQ Light LED matrix headlights for £1,750, I mean, I assume it's going to change the lighting a little bit from a visual perspective. Maybe they've got little accents in there, but you're actually not going to get much money back for that. So if you take that option, in my opinion, this is going to be really hard to stomach, and I imagine I'll get some comments on this on how much people think they're actually worth and what they would pay for them. But for me, if I was adding this in, 100 quid. So at the end of the day, they're just lights. So it's very difficult for me to look at two vehicles in a dealership and to say, visually look around the vehicle and pay. I mean, even if you put £1,000 on this, are you going to pay £1,000 extra for some lights? And that's what we've got to think of ahead. And obviously, these are very specific technological advances in lighting technology, which is always advancing. So again, if we go back and I have to think ahead 3 years' time, 60,000 miles, where is lighting technology going to be in that time? A lot of vehicles are going to have LED matrix headlight technology. Again, it sort of makes this option more redundant, but we've got to think that far ahead into the future to apply these numbers and think, actually, if the new facelifted Volkswagen Golf Mark 8 in a few years' time comes with these as standard, it sort of makes that £1,750 a bit more redundant. So that's why I came up with £100 for that. Next one is a Discover Pro navigation system including streaming and internet. Another massively priced option, £1,600. And on the face of it, if the interior is changing, you get a slightly bigger screen, upgraded graphics, and upgraded graphics that you can see on the dash. It might seem like it's worth it, but again, we're thinking ahead of time. So we're thinking 3 years' time. Is there going to be some a sleeker, more intuitive version of this that's going to come out, therefore making this one look visually, appealing wise, not as nice. As we've seen, one of the biggest developments in the car market is the interior and the plastics and how things feel. And even my car is 8 years old now, and at the time it was, unbelievably advanced for the technology that it had in it. But you sit in it now and you can tell it's an 8-year-old car, and I don't think anyone will pay any extra for it having a slightly wider screen, personally. So for a £1,600 option, you come to sell it in 3 years' time. What is someone going to pay for the Discover Pro? Maybe there's a new version of that out on a facelifted version. But it's going to be about £250. So again, this is what I would advise with Volkswagen. Dale, if we put the Discover Pro in as standard, and then we let the customer absorb that cost in the list price, we put the list price up by £1,600, how much of that £1,600 can we expect to get back for our finance agreements? And I would say to them, I think you'll get back about £250. So they would then decide whether that's worth it or not, and they'd probably say it's not worth it, which is why it's most likely an option at this moment in time. And finally, safety and security. Another option, don't tick this one. Side airbag in front and rear with curtain airbag, £335. Sorry, Mr. Volkswagen, you are not getting anything for that. So my general rule when I consult with the manufacturers is I don't apply anything for safety. I don't feel it's right that a customer has to pay for their passengers or themselves to be safe in that vehicle. And are you going to go to a dealership and buy a specific model, say it doesn't have any options on it, and it's only got side airbag in front with rear and curtain airbag, and it was a £335 option? Are you going to pay any extra for that if the dealership that's selling you that vehicle says it's actually got no options on this vehicle? Actually, it does have one. It's got side airbags. And they ask you for a little bit more money. You're probably not going to want to pay any more money for safety. So that's the basis that I work on. So super quick, videos around 10 minutes long, I think. If you like the video, obviously give it a like. If you want to see more content like this and want to understand what options are worth, then I'm going to do more videos like this. I'm going to try and do it for a lot more manufacturers, almost every manufacturer and model that comes out. And if you've got any questions, hit me up below, or any vehicles you specifically want me to look at because you're looking at buying something and you're not sure whether you should tick that box or not. Again, hit me in the comments and I'll try and advise you as best I can. But that's it for now. Really appreciate your time, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.